Get ready to sleep with the lights on. In this video, we are counting down the most terrifying indie horror games that will leave you with nightmares for days. From creepy atmospheric settings to jump scares that will make you scream, these hidden gems will haunt your dreams and leave you begging for more. So if you dare, join us as we delve into the darker side of indie gaming and uncover the most unsettling experiences that will leave you in shivering fear. There is a specific quiet you only find in horror games. It's not peaceful, it's a vacuum. The held breath before the plunge, the deafening silence where a footstep should be. For years, the loudest horror came from the biggest studios. All scripted explosions, monsters roaring on cue. But the loudest screams, the ones that actually come for you, they're being born in a different kind of quiet. The quiet of a solo developer's apartment at 3 a.m. While blockbuster games were making monsters bigger, indie devs were making the silence deeper, the shadows longer, and the fear way smarter. Let's be honest, the landscape of fear has felt a little predictable lately, right? We've mowed down zombie hordes, tiptoed through haunted asylums, and been chased by every type of chainsaw-wielding maniac. AAA horror, for all its polish, often feels like a roller coaster. It's a thrilling ride built for perfect scares at the perfect moment, but you always know you're on the rails. You feel that slow click, 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 as you roll up the roller coaster hill right before the big drop. It's effective for a moment, but does it really terrify you? The real, lasting terror? The kind that follows you after you shut down your PC, that makes you eye a dark hallway with a little more suspicion? Is evolving somewhere else entirely. It's happening in the messy, chaotic, and brilliant world of indie games. In 2025, more than ever, the best scares aren't coming from multi-million-dollar budgets. They're coming from creators who are free to explore what fear really can be. That's what we're here to talk about. The games that prove indie horror is the bleeding edge of interactive terror. These developers use creativity instead of cash, building experiences that mess with your head, innovate with wild new mechanics, and master atmosphere in ways big studios chained to mass appeal just can't. These games are why indie horror is so damn terrifying. We're going to look at the breakout hits you've seen screamed about online, and more importantly, unearth some obscure masterpieces you absolutely cannot miss. The scariest horror doesn't always have a face. It's a feeling, an idea, a doubt that worms its way into your very brain and starts unraveling everything. While big budget horror often gives you a monster you can at least try to shoot, indies are turning the camera inward. They're making games where the main villain is your own mind. Let's start with a game that is, frankly, sickening. And I mean that as the highest compliment. Mouthwashing. This game is short, maybe a couple of hours, but it will still live in your head rent-free for weeks. It's a masterclass in narrative horror that gets at the most horrible, disturbing monsters are the truths we try to bury. You're part of a crew on Topar, a cargo freighter after a horrible disaster. The game opens with a grim, quiet aftermath, forcing you to piece together what went wrong with the non-linear story. And here is where the psychological torment gets brilliant. You're not just watching, you are an active participant in the horror. There's a sequence where you have to force feed medication to a crewmate that is just gut-wrenching. The sounds, the resistance, the feeling of violation, it's not a jump scare. It's a slow, grinding, moral injury the game forces you to inflict. The mechanic later returns in a far more gruesome context, pushing you into an act of cannibalism that's both a puzzle and a form of torture. The low-poly PS1-esque art style isn't just nostalgia. It makes the characters human. Enough to be recognizable, but off. Enough to be deeply, deeply uncanny. There are no aliens here. The horror is people trapped, desperate, and pushed to their absolute limits. It argues the most terrifying thing in the universe isn't a monster from the stars, but the monster right next to you, the one that you're becoming. The idea of twisting the mundane into the horrific is the bloody, beating heart of our next game. Look outside. Created by a single developer, Francis Colombi, this game takes a simple rule: don't look out the window. And spins it into the most creative, cosmic, and body horror of the year. You play as Sam, trapped in your apartment during an event that turns anyone who sees the outside world into a grotesque monster. Your home, your sanctuary, is now a prison where one peek can be a fatal mistake. What makes Look Outside so effective is how it mixes this wild horror concept with the boring reality of survival. You still have to manage resources, scavenge for supplies, and even keep yourself clean. So you'll finish a tense, turn-based battle with a neighbor whose body has rearranged itself into a cluster of eyeballs and limbs. Then go back to your apartments to decide if you have enough energy to cook dinner. I think we can all relate to that. The pixelated RPG-style visuals work perfectly, making the monsters all the more disturbing by forcing your imagination to fill in the horrific details. Look Outside and Mouthwashing are terrifying because they understand that real psychological horror isn't just about what you see, it's about what you're forced to do. Fear isn't just in your head, right? It's physical. Your heart pounds, your hands sweat. The best indie developers know this, and they want to make you feel right through the controller, through the keyboard, through the game systems themselves. In 2025, the biggest leaps in horror are all about new gameplay ideas that create fear organically. No game does this better than Pacific Drive. Calling it a survival game doesn't cut it. This is a story about you, your car, and a surreal, hostile landscape called the Olympic Exclusion Zone. The game brilliantly reimagines survival horror by making your beat-up old station wagon your only lifeline. The car isn't just a tool, it's your partner. It's a character. The gameplay loop is a master stroke of tension. You start in your garage, your only safe space, where you craft, repair, and upgrade your car. Then you drive out into the zone on procedurally generated runs filled with bizarre anomalies. 1 minute you're cruising through a haunted, beautiful forest. The next, you're being hunted by a scrap metal beast that can literally abduct your car. Your wagon takes a beating, windows shatter, panels crumple, the engines sputter, and you have to make frantic repairs with whatever you've scavenged, all while racing a storm to an exit portal. The fear is systemic. It's the dread of running out of gas miles from safety. It's the panic when a crucial part breaks. The bond you form with your car is real because you have to work for it. And when it gets hurt, you feel exposed. But what happens when you throw the most unpredictable element of all into the mix? Other people. Co-op horror has exploded. The indies are leading the charge. And let's look at two games that tackle this from totally different angles. R.E.P.O and the Outlast Trials. R.E.P.O gets that horror and humor are two sides of the same coin. Inspired by the massive success of Lethal Company, it casts you and up to 5 friends as paranormal R.E.P.O agents, sent into haunted places to retrieve valuable antiques. The catch? Everything. Everything, including the monsters, are physics-based. You use a gravity gun to move objects trying to work together to haul them to an exit. It's pure slapstick chaos. 1 minute you're laughing as your team tries to shove a sofa through a doorway.
Pivot! 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 Shut up!
The next you're screaming in genuine terror as a giant floating head phases through a wall to eat you. The proximity chat captures it all, turning laughter into panicked shrieks in real time. On the flip side, you have the Outlast Trials. Even as big a name, the franchise keeps its indie spirit by delivering a polished, relentlessly tense co-op nightmare. Set in a Cold War mind-controlled facility, the game pits its players against the gruesome experiments of the Murkoff Corporation. Not much laughter here. This is pure, refined tension. You have to work together to survive brutal trials, but the game is masterfully designed to split you up and create paranoia. A friend might trigger a trap that locks you in a room with a monster, or their panicked screams might draw unwanted attention. It's a game of frayed nerves where one mistake can doom everyone. Sometimes the scariest thing isn't the monster, it's the moment before the monster, the oppressive silence, the unnerving stillness. The distant, weird sound that makes your skin crawl. This is the power of atmosphere. And it's an art form that indie developers have basically perfected. In 2025, the best scares are coming from games that know what you don't see is often way more frightening than what you do. Take a game like Thin Threads. Its true genius is how it messes with your senses. The game forces you to lean in and listen to every creak and whisper, building tension through its incredible sound design. Just when you're on the edge in the quiet, that's when it strikes, making its jump scares feel earned and brutal. Then there's Reflection, a short, intense shot of atmospheric horror. It drops you into a nightmare with no context, no memory. Its great strength is its soundscape, the wet squelch of something moving just out of sight, the distorted whispers that seem to come from inside your own head. Reflection proves that sound can bypass our rational brain and tap directly into our primal fear. This focus on making the environment itself the source of horror has boiled over into one of the coolest micro genres of the year: liminal space horror. These are games inspired by the creepy, off feeling of the Backrooms inspired aesthetic, and leading the charge is the highly anticipated Below Rusted Gods. The game puts you into the role of an operator, guiding an expedition into a newly discovered abyss. Your only link to them is your radio and your instrument readouts. Developed by the two-person team at From South Games, it taps directly into the unsettling feeling of being in a plane that's been stripped of its purpose. The horror isn't what's chasing the team, it's the place itself. It's about the radio cutting out, the radar showing something impossible, and the slow burn dread of knowing you're monitoring a journey into a place that shouldn't exist. You don't need a monster in every corridor when the corridors are quite literally the monsters. So, where does that leave us? We've walked the grim halls of a doomed starship in Mouthwashing, nursed a station wagon through a surreal wilderness in Pacific Drive, and screamed with our friends in R.E.P.O and the Outlast Trials. Each of these games, in their own terrifying way, proves that the real evolution of fear is happening in the hands of indie developers. They're the ones taking risks, pushing boundaries, and exploring what truly scares us. They are weaponizing psychology, innovating with new mechanics, and creating atmospheres so thick you could choke on them. And the innovation isn't stopping. We're still looking forward to titles like Retrieval, a cinematic horror adventure from a tiny team in Barcelona that's already winning awards, and Reanimal, from the twisted minds that gave us Little Nightmares, which promises a uniquely bizarre take on co-op horror. The future of horror is bright. Or maybe it's incredibly dark, full of things that go bump in the night. The indie scene is a thriving ecosystem of creativity, proving that you don't need a 9-figure budget to make something that will genuinely haunt people. All you need is a powerful idea and a deep understanding of fear. But hey, this is just my list. The world of indie horror is massive, with hidden gems lurking everywhere. So, I'm turning it over to you. What did I miss? What indie horror games from 2025 have been keeping you up at night? Drop your recommendations in the comments below. Let's build the ultimate guide to this year's scariest games. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell, and come back for more. My name is Aurora, and I will see you at the next tea time. Bye bye!